Welcome back, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you for trying to kick them out and starting up a new link. I don't know why they chose to attack us, but I appreciate your defense.
I don't know whether I should be honored or concerned. Maybe a little of both.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, I think honored maybe. If we're enough of a threat to attack, then that means we're doing something right.
Right.
I'm not on camera though.
Yeah, let me see if I can fix that. I also switched. Okay, here we go.
There. I have video and maybe you can hear me?
I can hear you, Randy. That's awesome.
Awesome.
I believe I upgraded you to panelist. Let's get Susan on panelist. Okay, hold on here. I may have to this does not seem to be. All right, can everybody hear us?
Yeah, I think I can hear everybody.
Excellent. Let's see, who are we still missing? Galena. Let me find where she's at. Is Jillian coming back on?
She will be, yes.
Excellent. We'll give her a few minutes to get on, and I'm going to try to see if Galena's on or getting back on.
And for anybody who doesn't know, Samuel Thompson is my campaign manager and also has the honor of being my brother.
Hi.
Hello.
So I've never been hacked by Russians before. That was interesting.
I can check that off my list of things that I've done in my life now. Or I didn't do it, but things that have happened, I guess.
I feel like it's no coincidence that they did it to a group of women who are running too. So maybe that's a badge of honor.
I'll take it. I was telling Anthony, if they think that we're a big enough threat to even mess with, then that's somewhat of a compliment, at least.
Yeah, I was saying I don't know if I should be concerned or honored.
Now they picked the wrong group.
Yeah.
It's really not that annoying. Try again, something worse. Come on. Wake me up at 6:45 every single day of the pandemic. That's worse.
Please don't.
Yeah.
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 I've actually
So
been sleeping a lot better since I haven't been having to wake up early to put my son on the bus. And it's been pretty nice. So at least that part has been positive for me. My Fitbit shows that my sleep graph is getting a lot better since I can sleep in a bit later.
Jillian is on but doesn't have video for some reason.
Yeah,
Do
I
you
have a
have audio?
2-year-old, so she's been up at about 6:45 to 7:15 every single day.
Yeah, sometimes my 4-year-old gets up that early and sometimes I get lucky. So he's in that stage where he's not really taking naps every day anymore. So sometimes he'll fall asleep at like 5:30 and then wake up. So that's fun. When that evens out, I think my 6:45s will stop until school starts back up again in person.
Yeah, kiddos, they wake
There's
up
no
early and then
little
they're
mission,
like,
right?
what do we do, Mom? And you're
Yeah,
like, nothing.
exactly.
It's
Oh,
7:30 in the
the best
morning.
part is when my 4-year-old wakes up super early and he's like, I'm tired. And I'm like, "Me too. Go back to bed."
I've always been an early riser. I think it probably drove my parents crazy. Luckily, my daughter and my niece both sleep in. They take after their mom, so I got lucky. Actually, early mornings are now the time when it's like me time. That's when the house is nice and quiet. Everybody else is sleeping. But yeah. So Galena is on her way in. Would anybody like to start? Does anybody have a question?
Well, you had asked about, what was the question you asked when we were interrupted about running for office as a parent? Is that right? The
Yes, I was
challenges?
asking about difficulties running as a parent, as a mother and a woman specifically. Yeah.
I think one thing that's been really challenging before and then especially after the pandemic is even myself and my husband fall into the trap of men's work is more valued, and or sometimes we're more concerned with people knowing that the children are around when he's doing stuff. And so I've felt an excessive burden to continue doing my work with the children around, but we work harder to protect his work time from their interruption. Um, and it's just interesting. And it reminds me of that video we all laughed about like 2 years ago where the dad was doing a interview at home and the kids come in the background and the wife comes scrambling behind and yanks the kids out, and it's really funny. And but from what I see is so many of these women that are running, it's more like Electra, right? She ran this entire 2.5 hour meeting last night, and she had her son in and out constantly as she ran this meeting. But I tend to find more often that we protect men's work time or dad's work time from that interruption, but it's more expected that it'll happen with women. And that's just been something that I've really noticed in my family and in my own life. And it's really challenging because I need that time quiet to focus, and it's not quite as valued or respected for women.
I just want to jump in and piggyback off of that because that's exactly what I've been experiencing in my own household as well, is that, you know, my husband and I both are doing Zoom meetings and things like that. And it is still expected for the woman of the family to do the majority of taking care of the children. And not only that, but, you know, their homeschool work. I'm the primary parent who makes sure that that gets done. And in our situation, his work is paid, and unfortunately campaigning is not. So there is that element to it as well. And there's also the element of I've been a stay-at-home mother for the last 5 years. And so it's difficult for my whole family, myself included, to adjust to me taking on more and different responsibilities. And to add the pandemic and school being closed on top of that, it's just been quite a ride.
Can't hear you.
Well, and one of the things that makes it really clear how important really representative democracy is that it was only since 2018 that federal candidates are even allowed to use campaign funds for childcare. And I will tell you straight up that I could not do this without Courtney. She makes it possible for me to fully focus on something. And in this country, despite the fact that more women are in the workplace, that on average, women still spend a couple more hours every day on housework and childcare than our partners do. And I'm really fortunate to have a feminist husband who really pulls his weight. And I appreciate that, because it would be impossible to run this campaign. And I also got pulled back into healthcare. I'm a midwife and have been helping out at the local birth center just because, you know, people are avoiding the hospital for giving birth, and the birth center has seen a huge uptick, which like makes me very happy because we have a big problem with maternal mortality in this country. We actually have the highest rate of all the developed nations. And when you further break that down, people of color who are pregnant are actually 3 to 4 times more likely to die than their white counterparts. And so this really speaks also to the need for healthcare providers and people who can be pregnant to be writing legislation. One of the things that has happened in the last year that really disturbed me was an Ohio legislator who decided to allow a anti-choice activist to write legislation for him. And this particular legislation mandated that providers attempt to re-implant an ectopic pregnancy. So an ectopic pregnancy is when a fertilized egg implants outside of the uterus. It's the #1 killer of women in the first trimester, and an abortion is absolutely necessary to save their life. This legislation threatened providers with jail time if they did not attempt a procedure that is medically impossible. And if he had taken the time to consult with healthcare providers, if providers had been at the table when legislation was being written instead of lobbyists with an ideological agenda to push, perhaps this legislation would have been based on best medical practice and evidence, instead of literally putting women's lives at risk and providers' livelihoods at risk. And so that's why it's especially important to get providers into healthcare policy now when we're facing an unprecedented crisis. And every day it becomes more clear how unprepared we were, despite the fact that 5 years ago, Obama frickin' called this. He started preparing for a worldwide pandemic that attacks our respiratory system. And the Trump administration's top priority, it seems like, is just undoing anything that Obama ever did. And so I perceive this to be the fault of an administration who is anti-science, anti-true healthcare, and much more focused on protecting the profits of insurers than actually giving healthcare to people. And one of the reasons that I became a midwife is because midwives are so focused on empowering their patients, giving them the tools they need, the knowledge they need to have a birth experience that is healthy and safe and fulfilling. And we really need to bring that perspective into all aspects of healthcare, because there are so many conditions that Americans are facing, like type 2 diabetes, that can be controlled if people are given the information they need. And so this is why we need healthcare providers writing legislation, and why we need moms writing legislation. Just generationally, we have a bunch of 60 and 70 something white guys. They didn't raise their children, their wives did. And so the experience of navigating preschool and the public education system, they didn't take care of that. They weren't the ones who stayed home from work if their child became sick. They weren't the ones who changed the poopy diapers and dealt with the postpartum depression and the havoc that having a baby wreaks on the body. And so missing this perspective, missing this experience, means that we don't have a government that is truly for the people, by the people. And I just want to share one more thing, because it's so incredibly important for children to see leadership from their parents. And one of the most powerful moments for me on this campaign was when my 4-year-old looked at me and said, "Mommy, when I'm a grown-up, I'm going to run for Congress too." And it just made my heart explode, because little girls need to see that kind of leadership, and they need to see daddies that help take care of them and do the work that makes a household run. And so that was an unexpected little moment of growth and pride that I have had on this campaign. And I am honored to be running along so many powerful women and moms in these races. And I really especially am proud of the 5th Congressional District, because we have more women running than ever before. And that's something to be proud of, and for other areas of our country to aspire to. So go mamas. Oh.
Thank you, Jillian. Yeah, you pointed on leadership, and that's leading by example. And that's just one of the small things that is wrong with our current administration and Trump. Is Trump definitely does not lead by example. If we were to be following his example, we'd all be running around without masks. And I just want to stress how important it is that we follow our stay safer at home guidelines and wear a mask when we're outdoors. Yeah, it's so important for us right now to keep up the fight, to flip the fifth, to flip the Senate, to stop Trump's tearing down of, yes, pretty much everything Obama did, whether it be banking regulations, environmental controls, Medicare for all. I mean, just everything he seems to really be working hard to dismantle. And that's why we have to flip not only the fifth, but Senate. And it really starts at a state level and a local level. And that's why it's so important to keep in mind local politics and to support our local candidates, such as the ones that we have on this call today. With that being said, Galina, would you like to say a few words? Of course, Galina is the only panelist on the call today that's outside of El Paso County. She's up in Broomfield, which is actually, a tri-county district?
Yeah, we're a tri-county, and then we got slivers of all sorts of little towns and medium towns on the way. We're Broomfield, Larimer, and Weld, so big 3 partitions along the I-25 corridor. And we get slivers of Lafayette, Longmont, Berthoud, Erie, and so on. So, yeah, it's a sort of a very multifaceted district, and the one that houses close to 90% of all of the oil and gas operations in Colorado. So just to say yes to everything that I've heard so far on this call, I likewise wanted to just say, first of all, thank you for letting me join you all, fellow beaters of the heart, marchers of to this drumbeat of let's bring the actual voice of women forth. Let's bring mothers to the legislative process so that we get to write the laws that pertain to our bodies. Let's protect the sovereignty of our bodies and our children's body. Let's protect the quality of our air, of our soil, of our water, so that they have a chance to see clean blue sky like we do today, so that they have a chance to grow up and actually indulge in growing things and planting seeds and watching them create fruits and vegetables that they can pick and eat safely. This work is just in the beginning, and our revolution team really needs everyone to stay strong, even though, as I've said on the previous calls, we've all been through serious heartbreak in this election cycle already. And from the beginning, in the last year, most of us have gone through the hype and excitement and hope and the total crash and devastation of our hope, where we've felt like we've already lost. And this is the time where I would like to encourage everyone listening to really rally up behind those of us, women, mothers, who are still in this race, who are still in for the voices of those who are underserved. Our communities are diverse. Our communities are immigrants. They are people of color. There are women. There are people who cannot go to work unless we allow them for an opportunity to go to work. If you think about mothers and how just being able to return to work literally means your paycheck goes to your childcare, this is like a mortgage. Something has to be done with this in our state. We cannot continue to undercut the most powerful part of our workforce. And here I just wanted to maybe share my screen. I've delivered a speech here in my university because I teach at the University of Colorado. I'm part of the training coaching team for MBSR. It's this mindfulness-based stress reduction sort of training for our team of faculty, of staff on campus, women primarily. And what I've spoken to them is that there is a really, really crucial population that we are disregarding in our workforce, that we're still undercutting, primarily because of the dominant language, the dominant narratives, including the ones where if the father working from home is working and the mother is working from home, the kinds of accommodations we make for them is different still. I totally concur, Jill. It's miraculous. And Randy, I think, spoke about this as well. So in the 21st century, and I personally believe that the world that we have seen pre-COVID is gone, and we need to plan for a really different environment, for AI-dominated environment, for more technologically dominant environment that is switching to more robotics, to more advancements where humans are becoming more and more irrelevant. And so how do we make sure that not only do our children have a chance at, you know, clean air and water and just the environment possibility to live on, but how do we make sure that they're relevant? How do we make sure that they actually have the rights that our foremothers have fought for for so many centuries, that actually remain with us and not happen to be taken away like what happened in Ohio, as Jill pointed it out. So women are the dominant workforce, the dominant percentile portion of the workforce. We have over 60% of women right now in small businesses, in various industries, as well as in political structures. In fact, I'm going to switch my screen share here and just say the most admired leaders in politics today are, guess who? They're women. And these women, like if you think about Michelle Obama, I think the most recent article in Huffington Post, and there's actually a number of them that have come up with a Gallup industry survey, has listed Michelle Obama topping our top politicians. So here I'm going to run through this particular deck real quick. I'm not sure if you're actually seeing what I need to see when I'm saying the screen share, if you're seeing my women or not.
We can
this
see
is oh good this is the powerhouse that we really need to invest in, our women, and people who are the upholders of progressive values really need our support right now. And this can be in the districts where we are running unopposed, or it can be in the districts like in mine, where there are women running in the primaries, which I think strengthens our party overall, because we bring our women supporters to the forefront of this battle. We educate our friends. We bring all of us together to rally behind the causes that really, really matter. So in the I guess districts in Colorado where we do have some I guess friendly competition in the primaries, I just want to say, whomever you know, whomever you like, you want to support, please do so. Rally up behind them, really stand strong, because this matters. All of us women come to this race with the attitude of weavers, of protectors, of planters, of life affirmers, people for whom the living force of having a child actually means something very visceral, something very, very real, where the values have shifted so much, where you're willing to risk anything and everything to stand up in the face of the industries of 1% polluters and actually stand the ground firm, because you're the mama bear and you're out there to protect the chances of your kids. So please support your women. Please rally up behind the mamas, or the future mamas or the daughters, I think it's important that we're all in it together, and we women will fight for our safety, our health, our well-being, and our ability to really be that power in the workforce that we are. So thanks so much. Appreciate an opportunity to support you all here and be here.
Galina, thank you so very much. You make a very valid point that women are the ones that are the leading the progressive fight in America today. I want to give a special shout out, especially to Indigenous women, who are on the front lines of the pipeline protests and battles. They've been doing this for generations, Indigenous women. And, they are a fine example to take in terms of staying in the fight and, persevering and, continuing the struggle. And again, Galina, thank you so very much. Do we have any questions? Guys, I'm so excited for the future, and a big part of it is because there are so many excellent women running for office. We've got a great set of women just right here in El Paso County, but it also extends across Colorado. So yes, definitely go out, find your local candidate, get behind them, show them support, because we've got a ton of leading progressives running right here in Colorado. Yeah, as Julia's saying, they need money, especially when it's difficult to get out and door knock and meet people face to face during these COVID times. It has completely, totally changed the way we organize and the way we campaign. And Susan, would you like to say anything?
Yes,
Heard from you
absolutely.
yet?
So I'm Susan Crutchfield. I'm running for House District 20, and it is a very heavily independent and Republican district with a pretty entrenched incumbent. So it's an uphill battle for sure, but I do think that it's winnable. I think that my messaging, especially towards the independents and Republicans, is going to be that of investment, right? So we've all been talking about how we're doing this for our children and for their future. And what we really need to do is we need to start spending our tax dollars proactively rather than reactively. So we need to invest in education, early childhood education. We need to invest in higher education. We need to make sure that our kids have the opportunity to pursue their education for as long as they have the ability and the drive, because that's how you create a strong and powerful professional workforce for your country. And I would love for my sons to have the opportunity to attend college without having to worry about racking up tens of thousands in debt like I had to. I actually started my college career with the intention of going into politics because when I was very young, I did not have anyone to look up to as Jillian's daughter does. And I learned that we had no significant politicians who were women. At the time, I was in second grade and I was learning about the president. And I said, why are they all men? And as a little girl, that was a big hit to me that, your gender doesn't do president. And that was the point where I decided that I want to go into politics because I think that women deserve representation. We need representation. So when I was in college and on a pre-law track, I saw how much law school was. And that was another prohibitive cost. There are all of these stumbling blocks for women, but especially mothers. As Dr. Nickel was saying, we have to spend a significant chunk of our income on childcare if we want to go back to work. There's a reason that I have been a stay-at-home mother for the last 5 years, and the reason is not that I didn't want to be part of the workforce. It is the cost of childcare. And so I was kind of railroaded into a stay-at-home mom position, even though that's never what I wanted. And I do appreciate the time that I've been able to spend with my children. And I know that those young years, you never get those back. And maybe it was a gift a little bit that childcare was so expensive. But at the same time, I think that, I would much prefer that women really have a choice, because the way I see it now, we don't. We don't really have a choice unless, we are lucky enough to be college educated and lucky enough to land a high paying job that's going to have enough to pay for childcare and have some left over. So that's why I'm running. And in my district, I think that the voters will be very receptive to a message of wise spending, right? Because Republicans are very concerned about tax and spend Democrats, right? So that's not the angle I want to take. I do want to spend on social programs, but there are ways to spend money that will reduce the upfront cost of what we're already spending while having more results. And the thing is, when social programs work, when they get people to being productive members of society, then those people can get jobs, right? So if we pay for childcare for women to re-enter the workforce, women are going to re-enter the workforce, and then they're going to be paying back in taxes. So we have the upfront savings, we have doing the moral thing by our community, solving the social problems, and then on the back end, we have more money coming in, in the future, in the next 10 to 20 years. And so that's the message that I'm really wanting to send to the voters of House District 20, is that yes, we could keep patching the roads instead of repaving them. We could keep patching the leaky roof, with the Republican plan of tax as little and spend as little as possible. Or we could repave the road or re-roof the house and, just redo the system in a way that works better for everyone and saves money and makes more money in the future. So I think that kind of innovative leadership is what people all across America are really hungry for, because we see these problems in our communities. We see people on the streets asking for money. We see mothers who can't go back to work. And we see children who are falling through the cracks of the school systems. And I think that we all want to do things to fix those problems. We just disagree on how to spend the money to do it. So I think that's really where the effective messaging is going to come in, is this is how we can spend the money effectively. This is how we can make more money in the future. And while we're at it, we're going to see, those homeless people come off of the streets and go into housing with a Housing First project and get counseling and mental health assistance if that's what they need in order to be a functioning member of society again, and so that they can be happier and healthier, because nobody can be happy and healthy on the streets. There's trauma there that needs to be addressed. And if we can address that trauma, not just with the homeless population, but with the population in jail and prison. You know, I had a meeting recently with some correctional officers and members of their union that, you know, they recognize the underlying trauma. They say these people come back and they commit crime over and over again because there are unresolved things that they need to deal with. They need mental health help, but they're very resistant. And if we were to transition to more of a restorative justice approach, where they could sit down, if the victim would be open to it, and talk with the victim, or if they could do community service with that kind, whatever crime that they committed, you know, something that would really reconnect the offender to the community as well, we would see a reduction in crime. I was taking a walk with my family yesterday, and I noticed that one of my neighbors must have had their car window smashed because there was little, you know, it's recognizable, the little black glass. We all know what it looks like. I had mine smashed out at Garden of the Gods right before Christmas time. And I had to replace my ID before getting on an airplane, and it was very, very stressful for me. It was a very terrible experience to go through, and the thief got $2 in cash out of my wallet. And I was able to cancel my card before they got anything. But I mean, all of that trouble for me, I had to replace my window. I had to replace a key fob. I had to replace an ID in order to be able to fly. And I would love the opportunity to sit down with whoever did that to me and explain, you know, and say, this is what you did to me, and you didn't even get that much out of it. And, you know, I think that if offenders were forced to sit, not forced, but, you know, encouraged, aided in sitting down with their victims to really see what effect they're having on the community. You know, the studies show that restorative justice programs reduce recidivism, which reduces crime. And so those are the kinds of things that I'm really going to talk about, because those are the kinds of things that my community cares about. We care when one of our neighbors gets a window smashed in. We care that Garden of the Gods, you know, should be a safe place for tourists and locals to come and visit and hike without having to worry about that sort of thing. And we have tried the hard on crime, you know, hard-nosed approach of you throw them away for as long as we can, you know, and that just doesn't work. It's not effective, and it's inhumane. And so I think we need to start talking about different ways to solve problems and better ways to solve problems. And that's what I plan to do.
Thank you, Susan. You touched on a very great topic that really gets little discussion. You know, when we talk about how to solve these problems, we really don't talk about the causes of some of these problems. And in terms of the high crime that we see, especially violent crime and property damage type crime, this is often caused by people that are under a lot of stress. When we're under stress, we don't think straight and we act out. And so we address the issues of this underlying stress, whether it be, you know, losing a job, losing medical coverage, not having medical coverage, you know, not having a roof over your head, or at risk losing your home. When we address these actual stresses that affect people's lives, that's when I believe that we'll really start to be able to understand what kind of changes we do need to make to address these actual issues. Again, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
I wanted
Hey,
to
Anthony.
jump into this. Randy, you too? Oh, sorry. I was just going to quick say that there is some really awesome footwork that is starting in the House these days. There is a representative here from Boulder, the Front Range, Senator, he's a representative, House Representative, Jonathan Singer, who has put forth a couple of, pilot programs. He's been able to attract some funding to really help do just that, to bring in alternative treatment to people who are coming from the mental health, outbreak, or maybe a moment when you're having some sort of a moment. And he's created a pilot program in Longmont that I think we should really copy. Speaking of the things that Electra was offering previously, as in, let's find out what works in which places and how can we sort of replicate it in other places. So this particular program has a team of 6 people. It's like a mini SWAT team that instead is a police team that's been trained in mindfulness and in stress and sort of response to the people with mental health issues, or maybe being on the spectrum. And so instead of throwing them down to the ground and arresting them and harassing them, they actually have a sit down, calm conversation. They find the best support, the best matching support network for them in the area. You know, maybe it's a counseling, maybe it's a group, maybe it's support with medication or proper supply of, nutrition. Perhaps it really varies, right? Sometimes people literally don't have housing, as Anthony was pointing out, that they're under a lot of economic stress, and so it creates an extra layer, and so they something happens and sort of brings them over the brim. So there is some really interesting leeway that we can support as people who are getting into these offices that I think would be crucial to continue. But yeah, great point. Thanks for bringing that up.
And thank you, Galina. Randy, did you have something to add?
Something a little different. So if anyone wants to comment on restorative justice specifically, I can give them a second to speak up. But I wanted to, first of all, introduce myself, because I really haven't on this call. And I just want to apologize that in the beginning I had a tough time getting in. So I'm Randy McCallion. I'm running for Colorado State Senate to work in Denver at our state legislature for Senate District 10 here in Colorado Springs. And I'm here, I'm a mom. Before becoming a mom, family health and child health was extremely important to me. And I actually went to get my master's degree in public health, specifically in maternal and child health, because something that was really important to me and that I saw as critical to healing ourselves as adults, to healing our population, is our health in childhood. And I've spent a lot of time working with pregnant families, working with families through childbirth and postpartum, and now becoming a mom myself and having that experience twice now. I can see very well how our lack of support for families and children in the beginning of life is contributing to both physical and mental health issues throughout the rest of our lifespan. And it's causing a burden on our healthcare systems, because we're focusing too much, as someone else just recently in the call said, I think it was Susan, we're focusing a lot on the Band-Aids, right? A lot on the problems once they've started, and there really hasn't been much attention to prevention in our country and in our government. And prevention is something that I have built my career on, and my understanding of health and disease, ill health and good health. So I want to give an example of where this can start and how we can stop, how we can take a different path to have better population health. So I want to give a little example real quick of what a woman might go through and what a child might go through in early life. And I want us all to remember that if this woman were a person of color, a woman of color, or indigenous, anything but white, really, that she's going to have a harder time of this, and so will her baby. But think about a mother or a woman or a person who gets pregnant and continues to work on their feet at a low minimum wage job throughout their pregnancy. There's a lot of stress. She doesn't always know if she's going to have paychecks or what happens after the baby's born. Then she's going to have to struggle really hard to find where she's going to put her baby after it's born. She also may not get good prenatal care. Most likely she's going to go through an obstetrician who is a surgeon, a trained surgeon. So they tend to come at pregnancy looking for the problems and not really dealing with and looking at what's going on in the woman's greater scheme of life and what might be happening in her family, or what her job looks like, or what they might be doing with the baby after it's born and how they might feed it and where they might put it for childcare. She has to have her birth plans hammered out. Where is she going to give birth and who does she feel comfortable with? Because birth matters. And we have research to show that mothers and babies are impacted by the way birth goes. And if it is a traumatic birth, that can impact the baby for the rest of their life. And unfortunately, at this time, we have at least 10 to 20% of women reporting traumatic birth experiences, and more sometimes, depending on how someone took that experience. Now, this mom, like 25% of moms in our country and in the state of Colorado, because we are no different, This mom will have to go back to work in about 2 weeks, which, you know, again, 25% of moms have to do. So the little kitten that our family just got, we couldn't technically get that kitten until it was about 8 weeks old and ready to be separated from its mother and weaned. Really, they're not ready to be separated, right? But weaned. And 1/4 of the babies in our country are going into daycare, childcare, or with another care provider at 2 weeks of age. That's traumatic. And so imagine now that mom has to have someone to take care of her baby. What if she doesn't have family nearby? The risk of SIDS increases when a child enters childcare and leaves its mother. Now she has to go back to work. What if she had a C-section? Because 1 in 3 women have a C-section. So she had major surgery and she's back at work at 2 weeks and her baby's with someone else. So breastfeeding is not going to work out for them, which means that mother has greater risks over her lifespan of health issues like breast cancer and ovarian cancer being higher. And that baby has more risks in their childhood and their adult life. And we've only made it to 3 weeks of age. So I just want to give that perspective from not only my background working with families, but also having become a mother myself, in how much burden and trauma that we lay at the feet of our most vulnerable when they have just entered the society that's supposed to protect them and support them and love them. And that is some of the passion that has brought me all the way up to running for office, from the grassroots work that I used to do as a doula, as a birth worker, as the president of the local breastfeeding coalition. Now I'm running for office because I'm sick of us wasting funds in an area that isn't going to help people as much as if we focused on prevention. And I'm frustrated that so many children have to start their life at a disadvantage in which they may never overcome in their adult life. Thanks for that platform.
You're very welcome, and thank you. Of course, Randy is running for Senate District 10, which is actually my district, so I'm very excited to be able to vote for her. Strong Medicare for All supporter, definitely strong on family values and working families. So I'm very excited to be able to vote for Randy coming up here in November.
Nice.
Any other comments or concerns?
I was going to echo real quick what Randy just said. There's also additional, I guess, depth parameters to what you're just bringing up. I've happened to go through my pregnancy while I was in the midst of transitioning from being a student on a green card to being a resident on as a student first on the student visa to being a resident on a green card. And I've personally witnessed I'm a very, very recent US citizen. I had to wait until basically January to even be able to jump into this race, which feels amazing. Back in Belarus, this would be impossible. I'd be probably in prison by now, trying to stand up for the women's values and for the rights of those who are disenfranchised. But here, it is, it's a great honor, and it's also a terrific responsibility, I think, to include women in particular, who get pregnant, who maybe are pregnant, who arrive here in this country and who are in the process of transitioning to legalize their documents, and to make sure that ICE doesn't persecute us in places like, you go to a people's clinic or you go to a food bank. You're basically trying to find your fundamental and secure your most minimum things that you need to make sure are covered so that you can actually have a pregnancy, right, and succeed at it. And then making sure that immigration officers aren't persecuting you and following you around. Or I personally felt, when I was driving around, not having my documents completely overlap, because there is always a moment when your documents are not quite there yet. You haven't received the newest paperwork. You feel like any officer who can pull you over for whatever, your sticker on your car will literally put you on the plane and then send you off somewhere. So it's this place of terrific vulnerability where you are not sure whether or not you can provide for your child. So the stress levels are tremendous. And of course, for people who are from a community of lower income, from communities of color, from our inner cities, they go through the stress levels of not having the internet and maybe access in their houses, and not knowing about the resources that are available to them, or how to even make a plan for the birth if you can't research it or you can't even afford it. I was privileged to have a doula in my my birth, and we had a home birth, and it was an absolutely magnificent thing as a possibility. And there's women of heart who stepped up and made it possible where I didn't have a health insurance. And so creating a Medicare for all is one of those really important steps that we need to fight for, so that women coming from all sorts of backgrounds actually have a chance to have a safe birth. They have a chance to maybe create an alternative and reach out to Randy, who can come out and give them some advice on how to breastfeed safely, how to have a home birth that is, right? And Jillian too, yes? Right? Exactly.
I want to say that this might be a universal anomaly, that we have so many people on one call who had a home birth.
Great.
Me, you, Jillian.
Nice. Oh, good. Yay. It's terrific.
No, you are absolutely right. We act like in this country, we have this message that we deeply care about pregnant women and children. Oh, we just value them and protect them, be careful. And that's not what I see at all. Not even for white women.
No,
and it is horrible for women of color, for immigrant women, for, I was a director of a multi-state program for migrant farm working families. And we worked with mothers and infants, specifically a maternal and child health program. And, I think 98% of the moms we worked with were undocumented. There was fear, there was confusion, anxiety, stress. And knowing what I know, it breaks my heart, because that stress in pregnancy is impacting that child for the rest of their life. And it could be impacting their ancestors as well. We know that there are epigenetic changes that you pass down.
Yes, correct.
And that is one reason why we can see in our African American and Black communities and in their family lines, some really serious issues around like heart disease and some health issues. And it's in part because that excessive stress that they're under is causing epigenetic changes in their biological line. And it's not okay. It's not any one of their fault whatsoever. And it is especially not a child's fault or our future children's faults. And that's another reason why it's critical and important to get moms in office, is because we really do think about future generations, because they're ours. We birthed them. I care what my children get to live for. And if they choose to have grandchildren, that they get a healthy life and planet too.
And moms who understand science, because we have a leader right now who doesn't believe in science, and we need people who actually can read a scientific paper and understand it and make scientifically informed decisions, so that we actually can counteract some of these consequences at the root cause instead of band-aids, right?
That's right. I have so much hope. I love you all.
Well, we love you back. Hope it is, yes.
Yes, this has actually been absolutely amazing talking with all you ladies. I can't even begin to say how much I've learned just listening to the three of you, four of you. But yeah, this has definitely been very educational, even for me, who thought I knew a little bit, being a parent myself and having a daughter.
You put a bunch of nerds together and we nerded.
All right, well, excellent. See, that's how we learn, that's how we grow, yeah.
We nerded.
Jillian,
It's
do you
really
have any
great to
other
be here with all
comments before we start to wrap this up?
I'm still in awe of the people in this space, and how many people who have never run for office before have stepped up in these last few years. And I'm really excited to see what we accomplish in November, because I think being in a crisis like this provides a motivation for people to be open to some different conversations, and is forcing them to have some different experiences. And so, things like people getting an understanding of what teachers really go through might make it a little easier for us to increase their pay to a level that is commensurate with their experience in the work that they're doing, or that they might see the value of paid family leave, or embrace a healthcare system that isn't tied to our employment. And so my heart goes out for all of the struggles that we're facing, but I know that we can pull together and get through this and come out stronger on the other side. So we can do this. We can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we definitely can. You know, that is one of the nice things about crisis is it does tend to bring people together. One of the real quick things I'd like to point out, though, another aspect about crisis is they tend to also be opportunities for the government to try to take our rights. We
Right.
saw it after 9/11. And the best way to combat against that and to fight against that is by being involved and being active. So if you are watching on Facebook, I want to invite you to go to ourrevolutioncs.com. Join us, get involved. We're actually going to be featuring Susan Crutchfield and Meg Fossinger, both candidates for House District 20 here in El Paso County on May 17th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's a Sunday afternoon. So please join us, hear from both of them to help you determine, especially if you're in House District 20, you'll be seeing them on your ballot come June 30th. And let's see, we got about 6 minutes to noon. Does anybody have any final closing comments?
Well, as everyone knows, we need donors to make this happen. In my campaign, I'm working hard to build up lots of small donors. So if you are able, if you're a new donor to me, $5 is all it takes. I just want your name on my list to build up that support. I know Jillian needs insane amounts of money. So if you can throw her more like 10 or 15, that would be awesome. So everyone on this call and everyone you care about, choose a couple candidates. $5 a month makes a difference. It really does. So help us out and show that you support. It's not just about the money. It's that you're behind us. You support us.
Second that.
And if you can give $5,600, I will use it. I will stretch that money like a true mama.
Right.
Now, 5,600, that's the total for both the primary and the general?
That's correct. And I actually, because I cleared the primary field early, it gave me a little bit of a head start. And also because I've been in this race for a long time, I've been able to develop some of the social media presence.
Nice.
And so in a political climate that we can't knock on doors, I can't be out shaking hands or kissing babies, we have to rely on paid media. And so I set a really aggressive fundraising goal. Brace yourselves, $2 million.
All right.
But you know, it's realistic. And to defeat Doug Lamborn, we're going to have to just absolutely saturate the market. So if you can commit to a smaller amount monthly, or if you have the resources and can go all in, you are investing in change. Obviously, I care about healthcare and protecting our environment and ending government corruption. But ultimately, what it comes down to is getting everybody into this fight, because it's for the people, by the people. And that means you have to be part of it. Don't be a spectator. Jump in, both feet.
And I just want to jump in also and say that I have, since the COVID, stay-at-home orders hit right around the time that I was really starting to ramp up my campaign, I just immediately pivoted towards social media. And so if you can't give $5 or $10, I completely understand this is a difficult financial time for everyone. So find me on social media and follow me and share my posts so that your friends and family can see. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook. So find me and help me get the message out about proactive spending, about what we can offer for the voters. Oh, how sweet of House District 20. Because I think that we all want this positive change. We all want happier, healthier communities, and moms really know how to keep people happy and healthy, right? So, so please support me on social media. If you can't support me financially, I completely understand.
We know how to work with people who don't agree with us, right?
Exactly. Yes, we are peacemakers, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think that's from being in the red district, huh?
That's right. Well, speaking of the red district, I just wanted to quick share an invitation to sort of stay up to date on some of the valuable conversations we're having in my district. So District 23 is the one that's multi-county, Broomfield, Larimer, and Weld, and I'm inviting to a weekly gathering, so there's a couple of open forums that are happening on Tuesdays. experts in the green industries and environmental cleanup, scientists, physicists, even our most recently, unfortunately, fired expert in air pollution studies, Professor Detlev Hemlig from the University of Colorado. So we're talking to our people, to our constituents, and trying to figure out some of the solutions that are absolutely crucial and central to our district and to Colorado's quality of air, because District 23 actually houses almost all of the fracking operations that must go. So I just wanted to likewise invite constituents, friends, neighbors, everybody in Colorado who cares about our air to look up District 23, Galena for the SD23.com, contribute if you can, volunteer, or even offer us any of your opinions, your immediate needs. It would be great to hear from you. So feel free to likewise participate in the battle and help us bring the right priorities up, our progressive priorities up to the forefront of this battle. Look at the baby Jillians. And the kitty, yes.
Yes. It's my kitty.
And Effie too.
Yeah.
Look, who's that? It's your friend.
Sweet, oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah, you two know each other, huh?
It's been so long since they played.
Oh, that's
Is
awesome.
he-
Guys,
something
look
to show
on
you
your
guys real quick.
phone. Guys, look on your phone.
It's a baby kitty.
Baby K. Baby
What's the
This
kitty's
is how we're
name?
dealing with the pandemic. Cosmo.
Cosmo, all right.
That's how we're handling pandemic, stuck at home with kids.
Yes. It's lots of crafts. If you need any craft supplies, let me know. I got lots of leftover craft supplies from when my girls were younger.
Well, thanks. It was so good to spend this morning with y'all.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Happy Mother's Day, moms.
Happy Mother Days.
Happy
Yes, happy Mother's Day.
everyone.
Yay.
And thank you all for running and doing all the hard work that you're doing. When we organize, we win.
We win.
When we organize, we win.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon and be safe. Remember, if you're outside, have a mask. And it's always safer at home.
Sounds good.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Wash your hands.